Facebook Live. And then we are live. Good
Hello.
evening, Garth Schwer. How are you, sir?
Very good. It's lovely to speak with you again, Oliver.
It's been a long time.
It certainly has. It certainly has.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe since you've waited so many years to do this, I'll just dive right into it. So you work in cybersecurity, right?
Yeah, that's right. As you may know, when you last saw me, I used to be a firefighter. I was a
Yeah.
professional firefighter for New South Wales Fire Brigades. And during a fire, there was a building collapse, which
Mm.
did a couple of crushed a few of the discs in my neck.
Mm.
And so therefore I couldn't be a firefighter anymore. While I was going through rehab there, they asked me what could I do while I was going through rehab. And I said I wasn't bad at computers. So they ended up putting me into the help desk pool. And then from there, when it became clear that I wasn't ever going to be able to be an operational firefighter again, I built out a career in IT, started working as sysadmin, got a degree, did diplomas, did certs, eventually started working. That was around the time when cybersecurity was really starting to get some movement.
Mm.
Compliance, that was just a year or two before cybersecurity really became something that you heard about in the news.
Yeah.
It was before crypto lockers, it was before big breaches. So it was really at the time, just really a lot of people were getting done by the Nigerian scams. And what was really driving security at that time was compliance, particularly in the banking sector. And so I managed to pick up a job in a small security operations center for a small security consultancy in North Sydney, and started building out my career from there. From there, I've worked with banks. I've worked with airlines. I worked with the Child Abuse Royal Commission that went on a few years ago.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that would be
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, that was really, really interesting. I wasn't on the investigation side, but what I was doing was there was a database of all the cases and all the stories, and so
Mm.
it was my role to do cybersecurity incident response, investigations and detections on anyone that was attacking those particular networks, as well as
Mm.
bring the Royal Commission into compliance with the Australian federal government, Australian Signals Directory Information Security Manual. From there,
Mm.
ended up getting a job with Telstra as a cybersecurity consultant. I moved down to Canberra for that.
Wow. Mm.
And so I was working mostly in the federal government compliance, also did a little bit of incident response. So that incident response in terms of clean up after someone's been hacked.
Mm.
I did a little bit of work with some non-profits for there, and which is something that I'm still trying to get back into again. I was in Canberra for a couple of years, and then Telstra bought a company called PackNet a few years ago. It was about 2015, I think it was. And on the
Mm. Is it a
day,
telco?
it was the joint business between, I believe it was Telstra, China Telecom, and the Hong Kong Telecom.
Mm. Mm.
So it was a joint partnership between those companies,
Mm.
and then Telstra bought that outright
Mm.
after it changed hands a couple of times. And as part of that, Telstra got a real international footprint and does a lot of traffic in Asia now. I think they're the third largest telco in Asia from the perspective of the submarine cables. So the kind of
Wow.
internet
Mm.
traffic that goes under the ocean. They have a massive footprint now. And I believe they're doing about a third of the traffic in Asia.
Wow.
So
Smart
yeah,
move.
Yeah, so it was a really smart move
Especially
for
with the
them.
NBN happening here, right? So that's
Absolutely,
why
there was a real
they
change of
branch out.
hands for them. Yeah, so and they got a big lump of cash from the NBN paying for the copper network, and so that they purchased PACnet. But on the day they purchased it, they'd realised that had been hacked.
Wow.
So yeah, so Mike Burgess, who was the chief information security officer at the time, made the very courageous response and actually told this to the media.
Okay,
The and and
that's
and
very good.
and it was considered quite brave at the time.
Mm, mm,
Um, because many organizations don't want to be public about their breaches and things like that.
mm.
But it's a little bit easier for Telstra because they didn't technically own it and didn't quite realize what had happened until the handover. And so when that happened, there was a Tiger team that went over to Hong Kong to contain the breach, and I was asked this. I was sent to Hong Kong for 2 years once that initial cleanup had been done, and so I was
That's so
the
cool. You're like an agent, like a 007, but in the hacking world.
so I was part of the team that started building an information security program, and was the representative of Telstra's computer emergency response team internationally. And so I got to work with some like international computer emergency operation teams. So Japan CERT, Singapore CERT, Thai CERT, and HK CERT were the people that I've touched base with, and also interacted with Australia CERT when they wanted to know what was going on overseas. So
Cool.
yeah, it was a really, really interesting role, and I enjoyed it a lot. And that was a 2 year secondment. And then when I came back, didn't really have a good spot in Telstra. And as you may know, many people don't have a home in Telstra anymore. So Telstra's committed to sack about 10,000 people. And though I wasn't,
They're
I
always saying that every number of years they shed people. It's like
yeah.
a seasonal thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so while I wasn't directly laid off as part of that, I certainly didn't quite have the home that I used to have when I was working internationally. So I found another role. I'm currently leading a team of 6 people in a smaller consultancy again called Loop Secure, which is in Melbourne.
Cool. There's so many threads I want to pick up on that. But maybe just I want to confirm something I've heard, that the problem with, or the reason why we have all these cybersecurity issues, is that when they created the internet, it was amongst academics. So they didn't, during the Unix days, they didn't even think of securing it. Is that correct? So that
Yeah,
all
yeah,
these
yeah,
things we're
absolutely.
just patching it up over the years, because now we're going to use
Yeah,
it for business. And oops,
yeah, yeah.
there are bad actors out there. We're not all academics just wanting to share
Absolutely, and
papers
and
and stuff.
and any poor cybersecurity manager that works in the academic space still today has a really hard time securing their networks because the point of academia is to share, so they're not
Yeah.
necessarily that concerned with the keeping the integrity of their data even today. So even though that now data is the most valuable resource in the world. Apparently, it just overtook. I just read a report a couple of days ago. It's supposedly overtaken the oil market. So the monetization of information is incredible now, and it didn't even exist in a head 10 years ago.
That's interesting. So instead of robbing banks, people would want to rob data centers now. Is that the new thing?
It's way
Yeah.
easier and way safer because
Yeah.
if I'm sitting in Africa or Eastern Europe or parts of Asia, I can try and steal money from a Western organization or even an Eastern organization. There was a major hack against the banking system in India, the SWIFT network, which netted a few $1 million last year or the year before. So Oh dear.
Yeah. So how do they do that? Like they need to transfer the money. Let's say they have the Swift network. They need to transfer that money to another account, and then how will they get that, right? Just some details on how these things happen.
So I'm not an expert in the Swift network. I haven't worked with that particular network.
Swift is where they exchange checks, right? Or no? Or
yeah.
checking
It's to
accounts
do with
and
that.
yeah.
I can't tell. Yeah, I know I'm gonna. I know if I went into this particular attack without doing my homework, I'd screw it up in death.
That's fine. Yeah,
So,
I was just curious because when you
yeah.
watch these movies, this some guy will go to the British Virgin Islands or in the Caribbean to withdraw the money, and then they get caught. I'm just thinking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Typically, look, it's really Bitcoin that has enabled the
right.
ability for people to move money around. So certainly, what'll typically happen is that during those kind of attacks, when they're trying to get their money out, the number of ways that you can do it. So they could move it to accounts, and then they do simultaneous ATM transactions internationally. So they might pull it all out that way, or they can churn it into the Bitcoin network as well. And of course, because the Bitcoin network protects privacy by design,
Yeah.
it's the separation of the identity of the owner of the Bitcoin and who they are. It's way easier to convert illegal funds through the Bitcoin network.
I suppose what you could do is get the money, transfer it to a lot of accounts, and then
Exchange it in the Bitcoin
anonymously, and then they could cash it and exchange it later
Yeah.
to
So
cash.
it's just they call it a laundry
Paying people to
service. So
do
they
it.
just
Yeah.
try and do
Yeah.
multiple transactions until it's very, very hard to find out who it was.
Yeah,
Just
and
no.
I was also wondering. Yeah.
Oh, I literally my phone flashed up with a low batteries warning. So I'm kind of looking around at the moment where.
You wanna plug it in? Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you stop the recording for a sec, and I'll go get my charger.
Or
1
I can
minute.
just wait. It's fine. It's fine.
Sorry. Yeah.
I could
Fine.
just wait. I'll just I'll
Okay.
just talk while you get a charger.
Right. Okay.
So while Garth is charging his phone, and I was wanting to ask him when he comes back, is that for normal people like us, we just transact normally using all these channels, but we don't actually see what's happening behind until we hear things in the news or until it hits us. And normally it's just simply, at least the people I know, it's just their Facebook account has been hacked or their Instagram account has been hacked. But I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So maybe when he comes back, we can ask that. And also, how big is this industry? Because it's a bit like, it's like there's an ecosystem there behind those doing the hacking, those doing the policing, and those building the infrastructure to protect people. Yeah.
Apologies. Sorry about that.
No worries. It's good. While you were away, I was just formulating what I was going to ask.
Okay, cool.
So I was just saying while you were away that to normal people, like people on the street, we just use all these devices for almost everything.
Yeah.
And then it's invisible to us what's happening behind.
Yeah.
With all these people
Absolutely.
trying to hack and
Absolutely
behind the scenes until something happens in the news, or to the extent that people's Facebook accounts get hacked or Instagram accounts and that. So do you have an idea what's it's like behind the scenes? Is it like a big ecosystem of, it's like
yes, it's
prey and predator?
Is.
Is it like a whole web of actors doing their role in
Well,
this ecosystem of
yeah, and
cyber
yeah,
security?
you do have a number of actors. So you have on the hacking side, you've got a number of actors. So you've got your hacktivists, and so
Mm,
they're generally they're trying to protest something.
yeah.
So an example might be a militant Muslim group that attacks Western websites or Western organizations as a way to protest, violence in the Middle East or something,
Mm,
or a hacktivist community that might attack a dairy chain or something like that.
mm.
So you've got those guys. You have criminal actors. Criminal actors come from Eastern Europe, Africa, parts of Asia, and they're really looking to monetize this. Quite often it's through Bitcoin, but also there's quite a lot of fraud as well. So
Mm.
there's your business email compromise fraud, which is very common at the moment, where what the attack will be, where they'll try and use a phishing email to compromise, to steal your credentials, like your business email credentials.
Yeah, they're
Get
getting better.
They're getting
I
way
get, I keep,
better.
I keep, yeah, I keep receiving them, and through the years, I see. Before it was easy to spot, like
Hmm.
because it's really because
Yeah,
no. But now it actually looks the real thing, and you just have to look at
absolutely. Abs-
the
ab-
website. Yeah,
Absolutely. It does look more and more like the real thing. And it does look like, when you're just logging into Microsoft Office 365 or something like that. It's kind of hard to
yeah,
tell unless you're really looking at it. And that's how they extract your username and password. And then they'll use your account to hit up the CEO or a financial person in your organization, or they may sit in your organization for some time to get an understanding of how it works until they can ask for, hey, can you change my pay to another account? Hey, Mr. CEO, can you please make a transaction to this account? And that's a very, very successful criminal model, to
wow,
ask for a fraudulent transfer in business.
wow,
Um,
and yeah,
and yeah, so that's happening more and more, and there are a number of actors at the moment that are very targeted, and will do a very, very long campaign trying to net hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in a transfer. And so you've got those kind of fraudulent
mm,
transactions, and then you've got your crypto miners, which you may have some exposure to. They're a bit more on the news. You open an email, it downloads an executable, and it encrypts your computer, and then you get a little file saying, "Hey, give us a small amount of bitcoins, and we'll give you the cryptographic key, and you can unlock your computer." And so, a lot of
mm.
people, have been exposed to that one. It's a very, very successful model. It's very, very cheap to
Yeah,
set up. It's very cheap to set up one of those email campaigns, and yeah, they make money. They make money.
wow, yeah. Because I heard this, they've even managed to do it to a whole
Yeah,
municipality's network. Yeah, and
yeah,
it's like a
yeah.
ransom.
I think it was in Florida just a couple of weeks ago. County of Florida, a county in Florida paid a 400 grand ransom. So makes a lot of money at times.
Yeah, because if it's encrypted, it's almost impossible to decrypt, right? At the
Absolutely,
stage of
absolutely.
technology we have.
That's it. Encryption is designed to be not to be decrypted. It's very, very hard, unless you want to throw a lot of computing power over it over a very long time.
Yeah, even then
You,
it's not sure, right? Because it's math. You're going against prime number math, right? And it's hard to
you
fight
can
math.
eventually break the keys, but can you break it in this lifetime?
Yeah, that's the problem. By then, all the data, I don't know, your business is
Yeah,
gone.
exactly. You've got a time period, and a lot of the ransoms have a very strict time period that you have to pay up, in or else.
they'll just throw the key away, and then
Yes. Yeah.
Wow,
Or double your ransom.
that's interesting. So what can I guess? So are the targets really more of companies, you reckon, or should individuals be also worried?
It's a mix. So,
Mm,
you do have it, and it depends on the criminal organization. I guess if you come back to the actors as well, then you have state actors as well. So highly funded organizations that are paid by governments or military organizations that are state-sponsored hacking. So it really depends on the person that's trying to attack you. The Russian trolling hacks
mm,
were part of the 2016 US election. Should people be worried about that? I think that I
mm,
think it's a really big concern. If it really is possible to tip an election either way through a coordinated campaign over the internet, then it's very interesting, and people should certainly want to know more about it. On the personal side, yeah, there are people getting their life savings stolen every day. There was through a partnership that I have with, well, my company has with the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, hearing about a compromise where people were being defrauded over the internet, and it was like a fake brokerage account service. So
mm,
they were being spammed. The setup spam was an introduction to an investment advisory service, or it looks very official. You look at it on the internet, looks fine, looks real good. And so they're setting themselves up as a brokerage service to buy shares and stocks,
mm.
and it all looked very professional, except it was all fake. And that particular
Wow,
operation has netted hundreds of thousands in Australia alone.
it's a big industry, right?
It's a really big industry.
So what can I do to like I know I know those that enable it, I've enabled two-factor authentication in my stuff,
Yes,
so that's
that's
really cool.
excellent. That is excellent. That's a thing that everybody can do. It's relative. It's pretty cheap or free. Google Two Factor is something that's very accessible for everyone to use, and I'd highly recommend any of your online services and apps definitely put Two Factor on them. But if you've got applications that you can't use Two Factor on, like bug the person, tell them you'll leave. You tell the vendor that this is a really, really important thing, because it is very, very easy to steal the username and password through various social engineering attacks like phishing.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, two-factor is when you log into a new machine or you log into somewhere where you don't normally log in addition to your password, it will ask you to either get the number from a text or an app, which is I use Google Authenticator, and it expires, right? And you have to enter that sequence
There's a
on
number
that
of
next level of authentication. Yeah, that's what I use. I
yeah
don't know what others are there.
yeah. It's basically the idea. It's multi-factor authentication. So authentication
Multi-factor.
from more than one source.
Mm-hmm.
Authentication can come from something you have, so a phone,
Mm-hmm.
something so a password, or something that you are, so a retinal scan or a thumbprint or something like that.
Mm.
And so, yeah, a multi-factor authentication system can be more than two or more of those things. That makes it way, way harder for a hacker just to steal your password and then try using it on your accounts. And definitely use complex passwords everywhere you go. Try and download an app like LastPass or
Yeah,
that.
I use that. It's actually interesting.
Yeah, because human beings can't really make can't make up really good passwords and can't keep really good passwords in their head. So having one of these password vault type apps, most of those will be able to generate secure passwords and remember them for you. And they'll be truly randomized complex passwords.
Yeah, and then the good thing with that as well is it keeps a library of my vault.
Yep.
So that, because sometimes I use a service once a year, and of course I won't remember the password unless it's so simple. Then it's hackable, right? So LastPass is handy when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, also, if you're trying to remember all your passwords in your head, the majority of the people will default to reusing passwords as well.
Yeah.
And that is the most dangerous thing, because and not only just because, even though that you might be really secure with your passwords, it happens. Websites get hacked all the time, constantly. And so what they'll do is that they'll just yank the password out of the hacked site. And then they'll try and use that against your email, which it already has. So if you've got if you're reusing your password, it doesn't even necessarily have anything to do with you, but a failure on one of the websites that you're using. Once they get hacked, and then they'll try and use that username, password, and everything else that they can think of.
That's true. Yeah. Because because we all hear this news of they get stolen, right? The
Absolutely.
Your user details.
Yeah. And there's
what's your thing on this?
There's a pretty good website called haveibeenpawned.com. And that you can put in your email into that. Pawned is PWN. I think it's PWND. And
PAWNED or D?
PWND, I think it is.
Okay.
You can put your email into there, and it will tell you all of the hacks that have happened on the internet. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
That's
I don't know if you want to put your email in there.
Okay.
You can put a email in there.
Maybe not now, because everyone will see, and they'll try to pawn me.
Yeah.
But that's the website, right?
Yeah, that is the website. You can put your email address in there, and it will compare that email to all of the.
And then what will happen? It will tell you if my email has been stolen or the details.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it'll tell you. It'll tell you all of the hacks.
So it says here there's. Wow, this is cool. It's good info.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So this 8 billion pawned accounts.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does that mean there's 8 billion accounts being sold? Do they sell these details when they get stolen?
They can sell that details, but the way that this particular operator, Troy Hunt, he's the guy that runs the site, has run it, is that every now and then the hackers will collate all of the hacked addresses that have been floating around on the internet into a big data dump, and then there'll be gigs and gigs of usernames and passwords in various states. They might be in clear text, they might be what's called hashed, which is a kind of like a one-way encryption that can be cracked depending on what the encryption algorithm is. And that they will try and use those combinations over and over again. So I know a number of black hat hackers. Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know a number of black and white hat hackers. A black hat hacker is someone that's trying to take your money or do bad things. A white hat hacker is someone who's generally a cybersecurity consultant or trying to use their hacking skills for altruistic ideals, and they will actually use the passwords that are on those great big databases when they're checking like doing a business review against an organization, because they're quite common passwords. You may have seen the list where they find the 10 most common passwords in the world, and that's where those lists are generated.
What are they like?
Password
Birth
one.
dates and oh, really? People use that.
Password one, I believe, is still the number one. I think it is the password one or password. QWERTY is pretty common one. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a real common one. So yeah, very easy to Google top 10 passwords, and they're all like And if your password it's any one of those top 10 passwords, change it immediately.
Change them now. Stop watching.
Exactly.
So I just have a few questions on when I hear like when these things are stolen and they were decrypted because they weren't salted. What was that? What does that mean when it's not salted?
Yeah, sure. All right. So it comes to hashing, right? So what a hash is, so you take my password, let's call it password, right? And then I put it through a hash. A hash is a one-way algorithm that will turn it into a string of numbers and letters, right? Might be 32 digits long, or something like that. 256 characters, something like that. But based on the original algorithm, because the way the algorithm runs, that password over and over again, password will still come out on the other end. Every time I put password, it will still come out on the other end as, ABC 123 XYZ, whatever it is, right? And then you can use what hackers have put together, what they call rainbow tables. A rainbow table is a correspondence between every hash and common passwords, so that they can deduct. They can kind of like, even though that it's a one-way algorithm, they've got like all these one-to-one matches of very, very common passwords in their hashes. So if you use a common password, they can work that out using a rainbow table. What a hash does is it applies another numerical against your hash to just mix it up. So it makes it harder to use a rainbow table to do a direct attack. So it just slows you down.
This is a common password, and then they'll have all the different hashing algorithms output that, and then they can just look it up.
Yeah. So if you do a hash, it slows down that ability to do that.
Because they have to do it twice. Or they have to have two. Yeah.
Until they know the salt. So if you don't know the salt, then so the salt is just another number that you times against the hash, which mixes it up even more, and so therefore makes a rainbow table attack much more difficult.
Yeah, it's like when you're randomizing numbers, sometimes you have to add something else.
Yeah.
Because even the random numbers have an algorithm to generate the
yeah. It's only a pseudo-random number.
Yeah.
It just looks random. But
cool.
Yeah.
And also, shouldn't they be called the black hat hackers? They should really be called crackers, right? Because hacker is really someone who's like just biohacking. I'm not trying to if I'm biohacking, I'm not trying to penetrate my body and steal something. I'm actually trying to do something good, right? So originally hacking means being good, right?
Well, yeah. Originally hacking back in the old Unix neckbeards, when they called themselves hackers, were very, very irate when the term hacking was used against bad people in the world. And yes, they definitely wanted to make the distinction between hackers and crackers. Way back when, in the early internet. But the term hacker has become commonplace. So even though that biohacking or being a hacker can be used as a positive term, typically in media, they'll use the term hacker in a negative sense.
Cool. And then black hat hackers are the ones who have malicious intent, and white hat hackers are hackers you hire to help you protect yourself from the black hat.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what a number of organizations do is have what they call a penetration test. Well, they'll go to a security company and pay for a service and say, please try and hack my site, or please try and hack my database. And they'll use one of their offensive security consultants to try and hack that site. And if they succeed, they'll give them recommendations on what they can do to fix themselves, to avoid an attack by a black hat hacker in the future.
Cool. And I guess, yeah, this is really useful. I guess one last thread I want to ask is, if someone wants to become like you, or enter this industry, what do they have to do?
Sure, no problem. Many universities are starting to offer a cybersecurity program. So
it's very specific. Yeah.
It's very specific. It's a subsection of computer science. But many universities are offering some kind of major in cybersecurity now. There are also quite a number of vendors that are offering certifications in that space as well. Some are quite affordable, some are very unaffordable for the average person. And then it's trying to find a job. Getting your first job in cybersecurity is recognized as being fairly hard. Most organizations don't want to hire junior cybersecurity people. They just want to have like one senior person. So at the moment, the industry is kind of hard to get into, but there's a huge amount of demand once you've actually got your first job.
Oh, that's interesting. So they actually need more cybersecurity people. But there's no infrastructure for training the younger ones, is that, or the more junior people?
It's more
that seems to be common, actually.
Yeah. It's certainly, it's just a challenge for, it really takes 2 to 3 years for a person to, once they get out of a cybersecurity program at university, to really get their feet down in a role. But I certainly know a number of the people that I went to uni with that have master's degrees in cybersecurity that still haven't gotten that first cybersecurity role. It's tough. It's pretty tough.
Yeah, that can be tricky.
To get the experience is pretty tough.
And do you have to be good in math?
No. So cybersecurity is often considered a very broad expertise. It's kind of like a mile wide and an inch deep, rather than many computer science techniques where it pays to be really, really good at a particular language or a particular website programming or C++ or something like that. Whereas cybersecurity is a very, very broad domain. So a cybersecurity person has specialization in policy, has an understanding of risk, understands legal frameworks in relation to cybersecurity, needs to understand operating systems, needs to understand networks, needs to understand attacks, needs to understand applications, needs to have an understanding of how data moves across the internet from one computer to another. It's very, very broad. So I came into cybersecurity out of being a system admin, but there's many, many people that come into cybersecurity from all sorts of different angles, and find a niche within the cybersecurity framework. in doing all sorts of different things. Some people do policy, some people do penetration testing, some people do, like myself, work in a security operations center and focus in incident response.
That's good to know. Yeah, I think most people would think it's math heavy. Cool. I think that's all the questions I have for now. Is there anything else you want to say about this topic? And maybe in future live streams, we could talk about your other interests, but I just wanted to focus this one on cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's
unless you want to say something
I think
before
that's pretty
we
much
end
it.
this one.
Well, from me, definitely to have people protected, patch your computer, patch your applications. It can be a pain. I know sometimes it breaks things when you patch, but they're the most important things to make sure that you don't get hacked. Be aware of your privacy, be aware of who you're giving your data to. If an organization doesn't need to know your age, your details, where you live, what your phone number is, don't give it to them. If they don't need to know that, if an organization on the internet doesn't need to know your personal details, don't give it to them, because people are getting hacked all the time, and the less of a footprint that you have on the internet, the better, because you're
That's
trusting. Yeah, you're trusting these people with your data, and not every organization on the internet is as good at protecting your data as others.
So when you're filling out these forms, because most of them are optional, and sometimes you don't see the fine print, only those with asterisks are the ones you need to fill in, right? But then they ask all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, if you just leave it blank, it will still go through. So I think that's a good tip.
Yeah,
if you don't need to put it in, don't.
Yeah, don't need to put it in. And just remember, when you're on the internet, if something is free, it's because they're monetizing you, and they're monetizing your information.
Good. Yeah. Because someone has to pay for it eventually, right?
Somebody has to pay for it eventually. So, while we have all these free services from Facebook and Google, they're not free. Those organizations are making a lot of money from your information.
Good. These are good tips.
And coming back before, use multi-factor authentication on everything you possibly can. And if your vendor doesn't support that, bug them until they do.
Yeah, and if a bank that's not your bank sends you an email, it's bad. Because I keep getting emails from banks. I don't have accounts with these banks. What's going on? But they do look legitimate.
Yeah, and certainly if your bank sends you an email saying log into your application, log into your banking, give them a ring and scold them about it, because they shouldn't be doing that. They're encouraging people to fall for phishing attacks. If your bank really needs you to log into something, they can give you a call about it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, my bank hasn't ever done that. So yeah, that's true. And I guess one last before we end is, when someone calls you, also be wary, because I almost fell for that when someone from the ATO rang me and blah blah blah, and then it's good that I have legal training when he said the ATO is going to sue you. Hang on, the ATO doesn't sue people. It's the prosecutor that. This is sorry. You're full of shit.
Yeah. And so phone scams are becoming pretty common. SMS scams are becoming pretty common, and some of those same people are starting to move to common communicate, like Facebook Communicator and Microsoft Communicator and stuff like that as well. Skype scams are pretty common. So just be aware that on the internet, not everybody is who they necessarily appear to be. Even if you think it's your friend, if your friend I had somebody attack me over Facebook a few years ago. So a friend started sending me messages how they were stranded in London and needed a bank transfer to get out, and they'd lost their purse. And yes, it was just that person, that lady just had her Facebook account hacked.
So yeah, you could ring them if they're really in trouble. Awesome. Thank you, Garth. And
no problem. Pleasure. So
and hopefully next time we could talk about. Do you still do kung fu? That would be an interesting
Yeah,
topic.
sure. Yeah. Or we could talk about meditation. We can talk about martial arts. Or if you wanted to dig into a specific attack, maybe we want to talk about
Oh yeah.
a specific thing in cybersecurity. Then I'd be like the 2016 election campaigns,
Oh yeah, that would be a juicy
WikiLeaks.
topic. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
complex.
because there's so much conflicting information. Yeah, let's do that because
Okay.
sometimes I think it's not true. Sometimes I think it's true, depending on who you read. And so yeah, that'd be good to deep dive on that.
It's
Yeah.
really, really interesting, and also gives you an understanding of cyber. The world of cyber is really where nations are attacking each other at the moment.
It's really cyber warfare.
Yeah, it really is cyber warfare, and the world hasn't really caught up with that yet. So yeah, we can pull that thread apart. I'll have to do some research on it in terms of really making sure that I get my facts straight. But that's a really fun topic, and more people should know about it.
Yeah, let's do that. Watch out
Okay.
for the next one. We'll
All
call
right.
it cyber warfare, and we'll talk offline to set up
Yep.
like choosing the case studies, and
Cool.
so that it's more structured.
Sounds
This
good.
one's just like a free for all thing.
Yeah.
We'll do
Okay,
the next
excellent.
one as more structured.
Awesome. Sounds fun.
All right, sir. Thank you for your time,
All right.
and I'll see
Bye-bye.
you again.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.